everybody, I'm Marcas. That's Cynthia. We're talking football. Of course we are. Anyway, we're talking about teams that are going from worst to first potentially in 2018. And, it was either Rene Descartes or Ricky Bobby, they're confusing to me, that said, if you ain't first, you're last. So, Cynthia, we're starting off with the Cleveland Browns. 0-16. They were last among everybody last year.
Yeah, that would be a pretty big leap to go from, 0-16 to, like, a lot more. It's like an infinite, improvement. So,
obviously 16-0 is on tap, right?
Right. Right?
That's got to be.
Works like that.
We will take a look, though, first at the 2018 schedule for the Cleveland Browns. You see it right there. They start off with a couple of big games. They got the Steelers, the Saints there. You see a little bit later the Chargers, which should be an interesting matchup. Of course, another matchup at the Steelers in Week 8. Flipping to the back half of the schedule, Chiefs, Falcons, Texans, Panthers. This is not an easy schedule on paper for these guys.
No, it's certainly not, and I actually think it starts off with a big bang. So Steelers at home, that very first game. Obviously, Tyrod Taylor, the presumable starter from everything we've been hearing. You have a whole, so many different additions to this team. It's a totally different team. Jarvis Landry's there. You've got just... all of their tight ends, Joku's still there, but, you're adding, even tight ends they added, like Darren Fells, who's a pass blocking they did everything. They remade the whole thing. Denzel Ward obviously being, that number 4 pick, kind of surprised everyone being a cornerback taken so high. There's a lot going on here. So it's going to be interesting to see that first run out. There are a lot of expectations. So I think that's going to be a huge one right out of the gate.
Well, I'm looking at one the week after when they travel on the road and go to New Orleans to take on the Saints. And you want to talk about being able to test the team's mettle early on. You're on the road in a hostile place to play down there in New Orleans against a team that is likely going to be a playoff team that could make a deep run into the playoffs. This is a game for the Browns where I don't think they necessarily have to win it, but I think a strong showing goes a long way toward telling you what this team is going to be. And I flash back to just 2 years ago when the Oakland Raiders, who were kind of a young, up-and-coming squad, went into New Orleans in Week 1, kind of gambled late, but ended up getting a very big win there, and that kind of propelled them to what was a very good season for the Raiders. So I think similarly for the Browns, this is a situation where, again, they don't necessarily have to win. A win's huge there, but just to go in and compete and be competitive, I think will tell you a lot about this Browns team this year.
Absolutely. Especially, look, the thing that I love about Tyrod Taylor is his ability to not turn the ball over. Obviously, leaving Deshaun Kaiser in last season, that was kind of like they left him in and he kept turning the ball over. It was kind of irrational from a statistics point of view because they kept doing something irrational with that. So for me, the Tyrod Taylor effect and maturity will be able to be seen in that game against the Saints. I'm with you.
Absolutely.
I'm also looking. Sorry to be I'm just going to interrupt you. I just want to know when we're going to see Baker Mayfield. Right. So for me, the other one that's a really key game is another NFC South opponent. They host the Falcons Week 10, the week before their bye. Week 11 bye, you got Baker Mayfield sitting there on the side. If somehow he hasn't played by then, depending on that schedule, when do we see the Baker Mayfield sighting? This is going to be a key. That Falcons game is going to be, I think, kind of if we haven't seen Baker Mayfield and they're 4-6 at that point, then I think that's the Baker Mayfield turning point.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously they are sitting there with Baker Mayfield, the number 1 overall pick, just kind of waiting for his opportunity. I think Hard Knocks is going to be fun with them this year. But
it's going to be super fun.
It's going to be super fun. So I'm with you. I'm curious to see when we actually see Baker Mayfield get in a football game, and I think it could be midway through the year. I think you're right there. So let's look at the final results. What we think is going to be the record for them this year. Of course, last year, 0-16, as we mentioned, Hugh Jackson famously jumped in Lake Erie.
Well, that makes a big difference. Obviously.
Right, obviously.
Jumping in a lake changes everything.
Well, obviously, we've got them, you got them at 6-10. I've got them at 5-11, so apparently it changes the luck at least a little bit this year.
I think I'm a little optimistic. I don't know. that one, I think yours might be a little more correct, but we're going to go. We're going there. We're starting there.
But either way, it looks like we will see a progression from this Browns team this year from what we've seen the last two. Look, 1 win in 2 seasons. Yeah, it's kind of hard to be worse than that. So, anyway, for more of Worst to First, be sure to check out the entire series on NFL.com leading up to training camp. We'll see you.